What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, live for NFL Week 2 picks, straight up and against the spread. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the NFL Week 1 review, The Bottom Line, where I rant and I rave about the NFL every week, and that show was live last night, over 2 hours here on the channel. So I appreciate everybody tuning in, and I appreciate everybody tuning in live, and I appreciate you tuning in because it's nice to know that even without my pretty face, I can still pull ratings. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching the video. We are still recovering over here from the sunburn, but it's getting better. Appreciate you joining the chat. What's going on, Hector? What's up, man? He says, what's up, Mitch? And he's got a bunch of Raiders flags in there as well. We've got Singh, who says, hello, Mitch. Turtle says, yo. Bethel says, bro. We've got Wavy, who says, Patriots Nation, ain't no other. Methan says, watch the stream yesterday. Thank you so much, Methan, for watching it. If you guys watched it last night, if you guys watched it this morning, if you just tuned in for one segment to hear about your team, regardless of that, I appreciate it. Don't forget to Gronk spike the like button, and we're going to get into our picks. Before that happens, just a reminder to go over and give me and the channel a follow on the different platforms. We've got Instagram, we've got TikTok, we've got Twitter. If you're looking for the Bottom Line View on other platforms besides YouTube, I'd recommend checking out the links in the description where you can find the Bottom Line View on alternative social medias. So go check it out, and let's get started, guys. I got nothing else really to say. Let's get going here. Gronk spike the like button. We're going to keep track of the picks this year. So for week one wasn't great. I'm going to be honest. Week 1 wasn't great. We did well in terms of our spread picks, I would say. You know, going above 500 in week 1 isn't bad. Going 9-7, actually doing better than we did straight up. So I guess that is somewhat impressive because it's hard to pick above 500 against the spread for every single game. We did so last week, going 9-7. There were 16 games last week. I believe there are 16 again this week. We've got straight up record of 8-8. And as the season goes on, the 4 categories won't all be the same, as we'll keep track of the last week results and then also the full season results. And I'll be doing the same for my best bet videos as well. Best bets, just for those of you that are tuning in. Best bets for the spread, I'm going to have out tomorrow before Thursday night, obviously, probably tomorrow morning. And then the over-under totals will be out Thursday night closer to the game. I might even stream the game. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? If we get enough of you thinking or commenting that I should stream the Thursday night game, let me know. It is a really good game, so I wouldn't mind doing that whatsoever. Let me know what you guys think about that one, but let's go. Okay, so speaking of the Thursday night football game, we've got the Los Angeles Chargers at the Kansas City Chiefs. And guys, as I'm picking these games, let me know your scores for each game. So as we discuss Chargers-Chiefs, let me know your Chargers-Chiefs prediction and let me know the score for that game, and then so on and so forth, okay? Let's go with the Chargers and the Chiefs. This spread has been very funky. So as you can see, 4.5 is the spread that I put in the graphic, but it keeps changing to the point where you could have bet the game at 3.5. You could have bet the game at 3. You could have bet the game at 4. You could have bet the game at 4.5. It's gone back down to 4 where I've seen it, but the spread has been all over the place. Most of the money coming in for this game has been through the Chiefs. A lot of people are betting the Chiefs in this game. The game is in Kansas City. It's in Arrowhead. It's the home opener in Arrowhead. It's an AFC East or AFC West game, rivalry game, in a game where a lot of people have been talking up the Chargers this offseason. A lot of people have been talking up the Chargers to be the team in the AFC West. and not a lot of people have been talking up the Chiefs. The Chiefs got a chance on primetime television on Amazon Prime to put on a show here and showcase that they're still the top dog in this division. Interesting. I really don't know who's going to win this game. When we start with the Chargers offense versus the Chiefs defense, we have a Charger offense without Keenan Allen. We saw good stuff from DeAndre Carter, the wide receiver, who really stepped up without Keenan Allen there. Mike Williams is going to have a better game in this one than he did against Nate Hobbs and the Raiders. Obviously, you're going to have Austin Eckler involved out of the backfield. Gerald Everett seems to be an upgrade through week 1 over Jared Cook, so that is promising. Justin Herbert's obviously fantastic. The question in this game for the Chiefs defense will be, how do they match up on the outside? Can they cover Mike Williams, who's been a problem for them for years? And then the pass rush. Can they get an effective pass rush on Justin Herbert and cause a couple bad missed throws and force him to, move outside and try to make some more miraculous throws? Because whenever Justin Herbert is on his spot and he can just let the football rip, he basically doesn't miss. So the Chiefs defensively, I feel like they could do a good job of stopping the run in this game, but I'm not sure how effective they will be even without Keenan Allen covering the Chargers passing game. And I do expect Justin Herbert to have a big game in this one. I just don't know if I fully trust the Chiefs secondary yet with all the, new players they have out there. I understand that they played well against Kyler Murray and the Cardinals, but that's a little bit of a different team. The Chargers have had success moving the ball against the Chiefs in recent seasons, so I could see the Chargers scoring big time in this game. On the flip side, I think that it's going to be probably one of the more intriguing matchups of the week to watch the Chargers defense try to stop Mahomes and this Chiefs offense, who put up a cajillion points. Mahomes had 5 tutties in the game versus the Arizona Cardinals. It looked easy. The Cardinals tried to blitz Patrick Mahomes. It did not work. It was to no success. And I think this is a different type of defense that you're dealing with here if you're the Chiefs. You're looking at a defense in the Chargers who has Derwin James, who's one of the only safeties or players in the NFL who can legitimately lock down and cover Travis Kelce one-on-one, which is going to put a lot of stress on the new weapons of the Chiefs. Valdez-Scantling, Sky Moore, Juju, to be able to make plays at wide receiver. When we look at the corner position for the Chargers, Bryce Callahan was very quietly one of the best corners in week 1 throughout the NFL, doing a very, very good job on Hunter Renfrow, also having an interception in that game. Asante Samuel Jr. came up with a pick. Michael Davis is a solid player. And then could they have J.C. Jackson back? That could be a huge game changer for them, because we do know that Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack can destroy a game and can get pressure on Mahomes. And this is the difference between, playing with a team like the Chargers, the defense like the Chargers, and the Cardinals. The Cardinals had 0 pass rush, 0 4-man, 3-man rush. The Chargers have guys that can win one-on-ones and can get to the quarterback, even against a good offensive line that is Kansas City. And the thing that I like about the Chargers pass rush in this matchup is that they have edge rushers. The area where I would say the Chiefs are best is their interior pass blocking. I think they're a little bit weaker on the edge at tackle. So for Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, they're going to have to play really well. They're also athletic enough to chase down Mahomes if he escapes the pocket. So all those things are big. Mahomes has had his struggles in the past versus, defenses, schemes like Brandon Staley, who play a lot of too high, that play a lot of match coverages. And I do feel that Chargers could mix in a lot more man coverage than you might see from other teams because of the corners that they have and the safeties they have. So we'll see what happens there, but I think it's going to be a great game. Honestly, I think these two teams are probably going to split this season, so I could see either team winning here. I did pick the Chargers to win the division, but when I look at both teams from week 1, I'm leaning towards taking the Chiefs to win, but the Chargers to cover. I think this is going to be a field goal type of game, but I just, right now, early in the year, especially without Keenan Allen, I trust the Chiefs to win the game by, in the last couple minutes, more so than the Chargers. I still felt like the Raiders, who should have lost by more, basically on the point that they threw 3 interceptions. The Chargers won the turnover battle. The Chargers should have put that game away sooner than they did. And I think it's a little bit of an uncomfortable feeling to rely on the Chargers right now to go into Kansas City and make enough plays in the last couple minutes. I just trust the Chiefs a little bit more when it comes to that last second drive or that sort of deal. Now, the kicker could also be a tough thing for the Chiefs because they don't have Harrison Butker, who's on IR right now. So that's also a problem. But I do like the Chargers to cover. I think this is too many points. I could see the Chargers going to Kansas City and winning outright, but I think I'm leaning towards taking the Chiefs at home to win the game. So that's kind of how I feel about it right now. I'm taking the points, the 4, the 4.5, whatever you're getting, but I'm going to take the Chiefs to win the game at home. Okay, that should be a great game. Let me know if you want to see me go live for that one. Let's see what everybody's predicting for this game. Ross says, you think Herbert will ever win a Super Bowl? I do think he will win a Super Bowl at some point in his career. Bethel says that it says boo. Nah, it says bro. Sing's got the Chargers 30-14. Turtles got the Chargers 23-21. Oh, by the way, Chargers. Lower scoring than people think. Turtle says. Ultra says, I've got the Chiefs 27-24. The Chargers built their team to beat the 2018-21 Chiefs. But are they prepared for the diversity of their new offense and new Mahomes? I'm not sure without J.C. Jackson. And I'm not sure what Ultra means by the new Chiefs. Maybe he could expand on that. Methan says, I meant 44-38 Chiefs in OT. Wow, what a shootout there. Bethel says Cardinals were literally leaving everybody wide open. Shows two things. Either they can't prepare or they're just trash. Brandon Staley won't look that unprepared. And they beat Kansas City last year. Yes, they did. They could have beat them twice last year, to be honest with you. So there is something in that matchup. It should be a very competitive game. Turtles got Pittsburgh 20-16. He's already ahead. We will talk about this one right now. We got the Patriots and the Steelers. Gronk spiked the like button. I've got the Patriots in this game. No TJ Watt for the Steelers. Najee Harris is dinged up, banged up, whatever you want to call it. I think the overreaction comes from both sides. I think there's overreaction to the Steelers beating the Bengals because they really did nothing outside of one drive on offense. And there's overreaction to what the Patriots offense was unable to do in the game against the Dolphins. This game is in Pittsburgh, which obviously gives the Pittsburgh Steelers a little bit more of an advantage here. But I like the Patriots in this game. You know, before the season, I predicted New England to lose the first week and win the second week. I'm basically sticking to that prediction. I think you get the better quarterback with the Patriots. Mac Jones appears to be healthy. You know, there was a little bit of a scare with the back injury there. I do like the Patriots' ability up front on defense to be able to cause some havoc, obviously stop the run, which they actually did an admirable job against Miami, which was an area where New England was kind of overrated last year. They weren't very good at stopping the run, but it appears they're better this year in that regard. So I'll put Trubisky in a lot of tough situations against a pretty underrated pass rush, you know, led by Matthew Judon and Christian Barmore. Dietrich Wise had a phenomenal game in week 1 versus Miami. So look for them to dominate up front. against that offensive line. I think New England's secondary is also a little underrated. When you look at Miami last week, Tyreek Hill did his thing. I think he got 90-something yards, but Jonathan Jones, for the most part, kept a cap on the big plays. They allowed one big play to Jalen Waddle, but besides that, nothing much. And I would say that Waddle, Hill, the weapons that Cedric Wilson, even the weapons that Miami has are even greater than the weapons that Pittsburgh have. And I do think, Jonathan Jones could match up with Deontay Johnson just in terms of quickness and size profile in this game. And then I think when you look at Jalen Mills versus potentially like Chase Claypool, I think there's solid matchups for New England across the board, on top of, I think they have a huge edge on defense. And then on the other side, I really just haven't seen anything from Pittsburgh's offense for me to be excited about that. They're even more vanilla than New England looked in week 1 from an offensive scheme standpoint. On the flip side, New England's offense, I think, again, wasn't as bad as people say they were in week 1. I think they played a better defense in Miami than Pittsburgh. I think Miami is a better defense than Pittsburgh. I think they've got more talent. I think their front seven is extremely underrated. We'll get to Miami in a bit, but I think without TJ Watt, there's just not a huge presence up front to destroy and take over the game the way that there could have been. Cameron Hayward is basically the one guy you've got to shut down. Obviously, Alex Highsmith's a decent player, but I think New England can take advantage of the linebackers of Pittsburgh. I think they can take advantage of some of the corners in Pittsburgh. I think they're not very good. So I think New England, just Belichick has a history beating Mike Tomlin. I think they win this game. It's not going to be pretty. It's probably going to be ugly. If I were to lean over under, I would lean towards the under, and the total is very low. It's 40. I would take the Patriots something like 20-14, something to that degree. By the way, I haven't been putting scores up if you guys haven't been noticing, because I'm going to be doing a just entire video about scores every week, and it's just going to be a short 60-second clip, a short YouTube short, and also a TikTok of just the scores for the week, where I give like a quick little sentence and I give you the score for the game. So that's something that I can just add on to the content already on the channel. So if you guys want to tune into the scores, I'll have them out probably on tomorrow for you guys, so instead of doing them during this video. But I've got the Patriots winning this game, and I have also got the Patriots covering as well. So then we've got the Carolina Panthers at the New York Giants. I went back and I watched both of these games today. They weren't games that I definitely, missed out on. I saw some of the games on Sunday, because I was just highly invested in both Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley as fantasy assets for me this year. So I was watching the games, but not through and through. I went back, I watched both the games. I thought Carolina got a little bit unlucky in the second half versus the Cleveland Browns. I think that they got a little bit going on offense. The first half for Carolina was really ugly offensively. Baker Mayfield, every second pass was getting the ball batted down like it was ridiculous. They couldn't find a way to get the ball to DJ Moore or Christian McCaffrey, which I think they're going to do a better job of that this week. I think that's going to be a point of emphasis this week. Secondly, they really struggled to block Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, the edge guys, specifically Myles Garrett. He had, I think, 2 sacks, maybe even 3 in the game. He was a real handful, and when you look at the Giants' pass rush, most of it comes from the interior. I do think the Panthers have some issues on the interior, but it's that one rookie left tackle I don't think will get exposed in this game quite the way that he did last week versus somebody like Myles Garrett. I just expect more Christian McCaffrey. I expect them to run the ball early a little bit more than they did, or just find ways to get McCaffrey the ball a little bit more. I do think that whether it's Robbie Anderson or DJ Moore on the outside, the Panthers can stress a weak depth chart of the New York Giants from a cornerback perspective. Adoree Jackson is good, but besides that, they don't really have a lot of great cover corners. And I thought Ryan Tannehill played a really good game against the Giants. And he was real crisp, accurate, consistent, and really didn't miss a ton of throws. We'll talk about Tannehill later, but I think that bodes well for Baker Mayfield's success in this game. So the fact that the Giants, I will say Don Martindale knows Baker Mayfield quite well. So there might be some scheme things that Baker has rather seen before or that could give Baker problems from Martindale's perspective. Martindale's kind of had the upper hand, but he also had a lot more talented defense in Baltimore. So those are things to think about on that side of the football. I feel like Carolina can have some success through the air, down the field if they get the time, which I think they can in this game. I don't expect a ton of success on the ground, as the Giants, once again this year, are a pretty good run defense. On the flip side, we've got the New York Giants' new offense under Brian Daboll. The one question I have is Kadarius Toney going to be active? Is he going to be a member of this offense? If he is, that kind of changes things because Kadarius Toney is very dynamic, and he's one of the most dynamic playmakers and guys with the football in the NFL. And I was shocked to see him, not a part of this offense besides a couple snaps last week due to being in the doghouse. I don't really understand it given the fact that the wide receiver position for the Giants isn't exactly phenomenal. I thought Richie James played well last week. Kenny Golladay is still dust and has proven to be dust. Sterling Shepard had a nice big play down the field, but otherwise was a little quiet. Saquon was not only extremely active, as a runner and was electrifying in that regard, but also as their probably best receiver as well. So having somebody like Shaq Thompson at linebacker could help negate the success of Saquon as a receiver, but I do expect Saquon to have a ton of success running the ball in this game. I thought Nick Chubb did whatever he wanted. Kareem Hunt had a lot of success. I think the Giants' size up front is going to be a problem for the Panthers' defensive line, which just is small. It's based on quickness. There's not a lot of power there. I think the Giants can really have a lot of success running the ball, and Saquon maybe doesn't run for 9 yards a carry this week, but probably should hit 5 or 6 yards a carry and probably a couple explosive plays. That keeps Daniel Jones in a good spot. What I am concerned about with Daniel Jones is Brian Burns and the pass rush of the Panthers. If they get caught in third downs or even second down and long, I think Daniel Jones is going to have to focus on getting rid of the football because I don't think they're going to be able to block the Panthers consistently, especially Brian Burns, who looked really good last week versus the Browns. Maybe didn't put up the stats, but I thought he flashed a lot. And the Giants really struggled to block Jeffrey Simmons and the Titans last week in the passing game, but they were good in the run game. So this game's going to be tough. I mean, I think it could go either way. I am leaning towards the Panthers, and the reason I'm going with the Panthers is I think they kind of figured out a little bit more of a formula last week in the second half offensively. I think that they match up a little bit better in this game than they did against the Browns, and I just think they're the more talented, well-rounded team. I think they have a stronger secondary. I think their defense might get ran on, but I'm not too concerned when it comes to the passing game. And then on the flip side, I do think Baker is going to have a lot of success against this secondary because I just don't think they can match up. New York can with the receivers of Carolina. I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants won. And honestly, I probably root for the Giants in this game as I am all season, but I think the Panthers probably win this one. I just don't see the Giants going 2-0. I'm sorry. I don't know if I could see it. Let's see what everybody's saying about the last two games, and then we'll get to a big game in the Bucs and the Saints, which is certainly going to be a likely stream if I'm not doing the Patriots game, which I might have to do the Patriots game. But we look at the scores for you guys from the Patriots and the Steelers. We've got Steeler Nation, who's got the Steelers 17-13. Turtles got Pittsburgh 20-16. Sings got the Pats 22-10. Bethel's got the Steelers 23-10. Jermari has the Pats 20-17. Meathan's got the Steelers 12-10. Jimmy asks, how am I doing? I'm doing pretty good. Davis says, I got the Pats winning. I think TJ Watt's a huge loss for the Steelers. I'm going to go with 20-17. It's a lot of low scores here. Watch it be a shootout now. Ultra says he's got New England 14-13. Zero faith in the offense right now, but I'll take Mac over Trubisky. Sound logic. He also says the new Chiefs, as in not wanting to make explosive plays, rather in short area of pass offense and more willing to take it and better run game. Yeah, we'll see. The Chiefs' run game, if they can have success, that's a big X factor for that Chargers game, because I still think the Chargers are susceptible on the ground defensively. Turtles got the Panthers 26-17. Meathan's got the Panthers 23-17. Bethel's got the Panthers 25-20. Singh's got the Panthers 20-17. Jamari's got the Giants 28-24. Call me crazy. Ultra says 23-21 Giants. Martindale's a ton of success against Mayfield. And like what I saw from the Giants offense against a better defense last week. Okay. And now we've got the predictions for Saints and Bucks. So let's talk about it, okay? This is going to be one of the best games of the week. This is one where I look at the spread, 2.5, right? And I look at what I think about both teams, the Bucks and the Saints. I view the Bucks as a Super Bowl contender, a team that is probably a top 3 team in the NFL. I think a majority of people would say the top 3 teams in the NFL are Buffalo, Tampa, and Kansas City, usually with Buffalo at the top, and then rather Kansas City or Tampa at second or third. That's kind of how people are viewing it right now. The Saints are probably somewhere in the middle of the pack. 15, 16, 17, maybe a little bit above that. They did not play well last week. They barely survived and probably should have lost to the Atlanta Falcons last week. If you want a full breakdown of that game, check out the NFL Weekly Review. I spent a lot of time on it. Was impressed with the Falcons, which we'll get to. So I don't know how much was the Falcons' success and their game plan and what they were able to do versus the Saints, and how much of the Saints not really showing up. But the Saints were able to click and get something going in the second half. Jameis Winston, finding Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, getting back in that game. So credit to them for that. So what I'm basically saying in terms of power rankings is, when you look at the spread itself, 2.5 on the road, Tampa, if this was just, we knew nothing about these teams, right? We knew nothing about the history of this rivalry in recent years. This would be like an easy bet for me. Like, this would be like a must bet Tampa Bay -2.5. You know what I mean? Just because in the power ratings of things, you would have Tampa like 5, 6, 7 points better than the Saints on a neutral field. But with New Orleans, it's like, well, they've played the Bucs so well that you're scared to bet it. So that's the process that you're going through with this game. Could you see the Saints winning this game once again? Yes. Could you see the Bucs winning because they're the Bucs? Yes. So it's like, pick your poison, so to speak. If you're picking the Saints, you're just going off history and picking it based on the matchup. If you're picking the Bucs, you're going off of they're probably the more talented team. They've got Tom Brady, blah, 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 right? So that's kind of how you've got to think about the game. And do you think the Bucs will be able to break the Saints curse, so to speak? This game is in New Orleans, so it might be a little bit tougher to do that than in Tampa Bay, where the Bucs have yet to have a home game yet. I believe they will next week against the Packers. But starting with the offense for Tampa versus the New Orleans defense, which is the more intriguing matchup, of course, Tom Brady versus Dennis Allen, and this has been a matchup that the Saints have thoroughly dominated. Really, even in the game that the Bucs won, the Saints were still pretty tough against the Bucs offense in, comparison to the other teams that played them in that playoff run. So you have Tom Brady with an offensive line that probably won't have Donovan Smith, but Josh Wells will be at left tackle. The one positive about that is at least he won't be hurt during the game. So at least they'll be able to prepare for no Donovan Smith in this game, who's unlikely to play. It's not for sure that he's not going to play, but it's unlikely that he's going to play. Josh Wells was really good in the run game last week versus Dallas. They actually ran a lot to the left side, a lot more than you would think. They ran last week because they have Tristan Wirfs and Shaq Mason on the right, so you'd think they'd run to the right a lot. Well, they actually ran to the left a lot. The young rookie at left guard was real impressive, who I really don't know how to pronounce his last name, so I'm not even really going to attempt it. And then Wells was pretty good, but he did struggle against Micah Parsons, who A lot of tackles struggle against Micah Parsons. So my question is like, was it Micah Parsons or was it Josh Wells not being very good? So that's a big question going in this game because he's going to be facing Cameron Jordan or Marcus Davenport in this game. You know, Cameron Jordan usually plays against Tristan Wirfs and then slides into the inside occasionally versus the Bucs, but it's probably going to be Marcus Davenport a lot of the time on that edge. So we'll see how that goes. But the rest of the offensive line, I thought Robert Hainsey played well. I thought obviously Wirfs and Mason played great. You know, Mason kind of looked seamless in this offense, in this scheme, really looked the same player as he did in New England. The tight ends weren't very involved for the Bucs in terms of receiving, but they were very involved as blockers in the run game. Julio is somebody that will have to step up in this game. Chris Godwin's probably not going to be playing here, so Julio's going to have to step up. It'll be interesting to see how the Saints match up with not only Mike Evans, but then you've got Julio, Russell Gage, who I'd like to see play more than Brashad Perryman this week. That was kind of a weird wrinkle from the Bucs last week. You know, Perryman, I saw, had the most unrealized air yards of any receiver in the NFL last week, like 96 or something like that, because all of his targets were down the field. So I'd rather like to see some of those targets going to Scotty Miller down the field, put him in the game, or, you know, getting Russell Gage on the field to do some of that stuff, or maybe just getting some more downfield targets to Evans and Julio and, you know, working Gage underneath. But we'll see how that goes. Lenny was phenomenal last week. Expect him to be out there. And a little sprinkle of White in the mix as well, who looked pretty solid in his first NFL action. Offensively, I think the Bucs are going to try to grind this game out. I don't think they're going to try to do anything special here. I don't think they're going to try to drop back 40 times and throw the ball the way that Bruce Arians used to. I think they're going to take it really conservative. I think they're going to make this game slow. I think they're going to make this game defensive, and that might play into the hands of the Saints, but I think the Bucs have realized that some of the biggest reasons they've lost to the Saints is due to turnovers and due to not allowing Brady to get comfortable in the game. And I think through running the football, where the Saints were very susceptible last week against the Falcons, especially on outside zone plays, I think that the Bucs will be able to keep this one in check, and they'll more so be able to control the game the way that they want to. And I think a lot of the passing plays will be kind of quick, especially early, to get Josh Wells and that offensive line situated. You could see a lot of screens as well. And I think the Bucs are generally going to try to avoid those third down situations where the Saints can get all exotic and then send a bunch of blitzes at this offensive line, which they have been unable to avoid that the last 2 years, other than that divisional game, which was a huge difference in the game. So that's going to be a great matchup. I think the big question I have about the Saints defense is like, well, how much of last week's lack of success against Atlanta was Atlanta's unique personnel and their game plan, and how much of it was like some of their players getting older and maybe potential regression from the defense, which is also possible, which I don't think we'll know until we see these teams play. So like if the Saints defense just isn't the same as last year, then the Bucs are probably going to have more success. But if it was a matchup based thing, then, you know, you could see the Saints still have the success that they've had against the Bucs. So that's kind of tricky from that side. And then you look at the other side of the ball, where I thought the Saints' offensive line was a bit susceptible last week, but once they settled in, they won their matchups with Mike Thomas, and they were able to find some big plays to Jarvis Landry. Chris Olave got the 2-point. He wasn't super involved. He looks more like the number 3 receiver. Taysom Hill made a couple big plays in the game, which was cool to see. Alvin Kamara was pretty quiet. I mean, he didn't do a lot, especially as a receiver. I didn't notice him too much. As a rusher, he didn't make very many, incredible plays. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball to a lot of success in this game against Tampa Bay. They haven't been able to run the ball against the Bucs very much, other than a couple Taysom Hill plays every once in a while. But that's about it. So I expect a lot of pressure to be on Jameis Winston in this game to be able to drop back and make plays. Obviously, better receiving core than they've had in the past, but no Sean Payton, right? No Sean Payton. So that's a big difference for this offense to be able to game plan against Todd Bowles' defense. But this looks to be the best Bucs defense we've seen the last 3 years. So this is a really tough game to pick. I mean, I could see it going either way. I think that I would pick the Bucs if I knew nothing about the history about these two teams, honestly. Like, just to be flat out honest with you guys, I would pick Tampa Bay based on week 1, based on the team's talent, the team's depth charts. I would pick the Bucs even with the injuries, but I'm just not going to pick them because, like, I need to see them beat the Saints, especially in New Orleans, before I can actually pick them, to beat the Saints. So it's probably unlikely that the Saints sweep the Bucs again this year. Like, they're probably going to split this year, most likely, but I'm hoping the Bucs win. I'm just going to pick the Saints because, like, at the end of the day, I could say all this stuff. Things could change. I don't know that it's going to change. I don't know that it's going to be any different. I will say about the Saints offense, if this is where I think they win or lose the game. And by the way, whether the Bucs win or lose this game, if they lose this game, it has no effect on what I think about the Bucs long term because they always lose to the Saints. Like, period. They always lose to the Saints. But if they win this game, it changes my thought a little bit about probably the defense. I think I feel even better about the defense, and I just feel better about the coaching, which is probably the biggest thing because I haven't liked the coaching even in the Super Bowl year. I think I like Todd Bowles already more than Bruce Arians. But this is where the Saints can win this game, is when they're in those passing situations, can Jameis Winston hang in the pocket and take a hit to make a throw down the field? Can he make a couple big game-changing throws? Because the Bucs are going to pressure. They're going to blitz. There's going to be moments for the Saints to be able to win down the field. 1, do they have the players to do it? And 2, can Jameis make those throws consistently enough in this game to win them the game? And I think that's basically going to be the difference for the Saints offensively, whether or not they find some success or they don't. Because I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball, but when those man/blitz opportunities come, can Winston make them pay? And can Winston, when they're going to zone on the Bucs side of things, can he be patient and just pick up yards to avoid some of these situations? We'll see what happens, but I'm taking the Saints just because of process, okay? Just because it has to happen, all right? But let's take a look at what everybody says in the chat, and then we'll get to Jets and Browns. Okay, so we've got Jermari, who's got the Saints 28-20. Bethel's got the Saints 27-17. Bucs can't beat them in the regular season. The Saints have only gotten better. I mean, not based on last week, but roster-wise, they should be better. Donnie says, as a Saints fan, I got a low-scoring game, but the Bucs 19-17. Okay, that's interesting. Lance says the Vikings are Super Bowl contenders. Okay. Turtle says the Saints are going to win the game 27-20. We own Tampa. It's too easy. I've got the Bucs 24-23, but I'm really hesitant, unsure about this one, says Darwin. Jimmy says, I have the Bears beating the Packers. Interesting. Singh's got the Bucs 24-20, but I would not be surprised if the Saints win. Meathan's got the Bucs 20-17. Got Saints money line, easy money. We've got in the chat. Not going to lie, the Saints win 24-20, and the Bucs almost get a game-winning touchdown, says Yeet. Steve says that Brady doesn't look so good. Donnie says, think the Bucs take this one, but not going to be better by the end of the season. Not exactly sure what that means. The Ghost says, remember you said the Bears have no shot against the Niners. Shut your face. That's not very nice. Valley says it's Brady's last year, so I'll take him. Neil says he had $479. That's a random number on the Seahawks plus 4.5 Monday night. Only 4.5. He says that's easy. I think you could have got a better spread than that, to be honest. But Good for you. All right. New York Jets at the Cleveland Browns. I've seen spreads of 6 or 6.5. I think it moved towards 6.5 before I went on air. I wasn't able to adjust it. But regardless, we've got the Browns by 6, according to Vegas and the odds makers. I think the Browns win, but I don't think they cover this game. This is kind of a boring, low-scoring game, in my opinion. I just can't take Jacoby Brissett to cover a 6.5-point spread versus basically any team in the NFL. Now, this is why. I was pretty impressed by the Jets defensively versus Baltimore, and I think they're one of the more underrated defenses in the NFL. And I think they're a lot better against the run than the Panthers are. So I think the New York Jets have a stout front, especially they play a lot of players in the box. They, have like that 8-man Seattle scheme where it's really hard to get a lot going in the run game consistently against this Jets team. You've got really good defensive linemen in the interior with Franklin Myers and Quinnen Williams. Carl Lawson is on the D-line. They've got a stout front. C.J. Mosley's a beast versus the run. Quincy Williams looked good as well. I thought Sauce Gardner looked amazing in his first game. He was covering Mark Andrews in spots. Also covering Rashad Bateman, looked very, very good. DJ Reed also looked good. I believe he had an interception in the game. So I think the Jets' corners are better than people give them credit for on the outside. I think they've got a little bit of a weakness in the slot. But I think that the Jets can match up with Donovan Peoples-Jones and Amari Cooper in this game. So I think the Jets will hang around due to a strong defensive performance and putting Jacoby Brissett in situations that he was not in versus Carolina because the Browns were so easily able to run the ball in that game. On the flip side, I thought Joe Flacco wasn't bad against the Ravens. Sure, can he move a lot? No. But he knows where to go with the ball. He's still pretty accurate. He knows how to get the ball to the playmakers. I thought the Jets had a pretty decent run game against the Ravens. Not amazing, but against the Ravens, I thought it was fairly successful. They did struggle to get big plays, but I think that the Ravens defense is better than the Browns defense. I'm a little worried about the Myles Garrett thing in this game. Like, can they block Myles Garrett? I think that's a little bit of a problem, but I don't think George Fant is any worse than the kid from Carolina. So, honestly, I think this game is going to be tight, but I've got Cleveland in the game, but not covering the spread. That's how I got it. All right, next up, we got the Miami Dolphins in Baltimore. And I'm going to be honest, I still don't know who I'm picking in this game. So offensively for Miami, I thought they left plays on the field against New England. A couple at least. Where if Tua was just a better quarterback, they might have been able to strike for a couple more big plays. I do wonder how Baltimore may match up with Miami in terms of the quick RPO, screens, boot action game. I think Baltimore's run D was solid. I don't think they'll have any problem shutting down Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, and company there. I think this is going to have to be won by Tua and Tyreek Hill. I think Tyreek Hill is going to have a big game for the Ravens to lose or for the Dolphins to win. The Ravens have struggled to cover Tyreek Hill in the past. But without Mahomes throwing to Tyreek Hill, it at least limits the area of the field where you have to most importantly cover Tyreek Hill if you're the Ravens. So you can more so scheme to cover him in the game as opposed to just trying to cover him all over the field, running around and all that stuff. Tyreek would often beat them, down the field for consistent big plays, and I don't think that can happen with Tua. I just don't think he can do it. Jalen Waddle, speed at receiver is going to be potentially a problem. If the Dolphins win this game and their offense plays well, that could potentially be a problem because the Ravens have struggled with speed in the past. But their offensive line was okay. I think the Ravens are going to pressure Tua when they get the chance. They're going to blitz him when they get the chance. They do have a stronger secondary than New England does on paper. I don't know, man. It's real tough. On the flip side, Lamar was good. I didn't think he was great against the Jets, but then again, I said it. I think the Jets' defense is underrated. I am worried about the left tackle situation. 2 left tackles potentially out. Now, Ronnie Stanley has been limited at practice. He would be a huge game changer for this one if he can go. I think he really, really, really helps this offense. Rashad Bateman needs to be a little bit more involved, and I do think he's going to draw a difficult matchup in Xavier Howard for a majority of the day. But I do think Mark Andrews will have a better game than he did against the Jets. The Ravens' run game was really non-existent through their running backs, and even Lamar didn't have a lot of success. I wonder how that may change against this defense. Maybe the Jets are more capable of slowing it down. Maybe they're not. I don't know. The Dolphins were very successful last year at blitzing Lamar, and that was the clear game plan. They played man on man, and they went zero blitz a lot. I wonder if they can do that again. I don't know if Byron Jones is playing. If he's not playing, it at least, makes it easier on the Ravens to move the ball. Baltimore's at home. Last year's game was in Miami. It was on a short week. I'm going with Baltimore, but I don't feel good about it. I'm going with Baltimore because they've got Lamar and the Dolphins got Tua. I'm going with the better quarterback. I think this is going to be a real defensive game. I think both defenses are going to do a good job of slowing down the opposing offenses. I'm just going to take Lamar to make a couple more plays than Tua. And that's ultimately how I see it. But I don't mind taking the 3.5 because I think this will be a low-scoring game. And I do think that the Dolphins could very well win it. So with the hook involved as well, I could very well see the Ravens winning 20-17, 17-14, 23-20. I could very well see that happening. And in that case, I'm going to take the hook with the 3.5 for Miami, but I'm going to thread the needle and take the Ravens to win the game. So that's kind of a tricky one for me. I don't really know how it's going to go, but I'm bound to be right on one of those. Washington at the Detroit Lions. Detroit is favored by 1.5. I was really impressed by both of the offenses in this game. I really like Detroit's offense in terms of their offensive line. I'm concerned about the injury to DeAndre Swift. Will he be the same player? Or will he even be able to play? That's concerning as he popped up on the injury report today. He was spectacular. I mean, we were all expecting a huge jump, a huge breakout season from DeAndre Swift. I really hope he stays healthy, man, because that guy's a baller. I thought he showed a different running ability than he did last year. I thought he was a little bit overrated last year as a runner, and his success more so came as a receiver. I think that if he's a huge factor, I know he's a running back, but he's a huge factor. Jamal Williams is also pretty good though, so I'm not overly concerned about Swift or no Swift, but he's just such an explosive player. He adds an explosive element to an offense that doesn't have a quarterback that makes a lot of explosive throws. So that's why it's important to me. By the way, Zay says Lions money line. I just want to point something out to just help you guys, right? So Zay, if you're going to bet this game, don't take the Detroit money line because they're favored by only 1.5. Just take the Detroit Lions to cover 1.5 because the likeliness of this game ending 29-28 or 28-27 is very, very low. So if you're going to bet, just bet -1.5, bro. And you like the Lions, okay? Offensive line for the Lions, though, very good, very impressive. I thought they looked like one of the top 3 offensive lines in the NFL, as we thought they might. And I think that continues. And I think that's a huge X factor for this game. Jacksonville lost, they kind of lost the game to Washington. Washington took it, don't get me wrong. Like, they played a good game. Carson Wentz played really well, as we'll discuss on the flip side of the football. But I felt like a big reason the Jags weren't consistently moving the ball enough to win the game was Lawrence was affected by the pass rush, which I just don't think the Commanders' front 4 will be able to destroy the Lions' offensive line. The way that they did Jacksonville's. I don't think Jacksonville's offensive line is very good. So that's a huge difference in this matchup for Washington in this game. Is they've got, Lions got a very good offensive line. They can protect their quarterback. Washington's best part of their defense is Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, and the pass rush. And if they can't destroy the game, Jared Goff has time. I think there's a susceptible back end of this defense that we saw last week. So I think that's a huge game changer for the Lions to be able to move the ball. I do think DJ Chark and Amon-Ra St. Brown can get open. I do think TJ Hawkinson should have a huge game here. This is a matchup that he should really benefit from. I like the Lions to move the ball and score into the 20s in this game, potentially even the 30s at home in the Dome. And then you look at the flip side, I think Washington's going to move the ball. I think this is definitely a high-scoring game. Carson Wentz was really impressive last week. I thought his ability just to look twitchier and quicker in the pocket to move around and extend plays was better. I thought his accuracy was better. I thought his just propensity, I think that's how you say the word, to, make big throws down the field, just the capacity to want to throw the ball down the field, stretch the field, go for the home run ball. Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin, a lot of big plays made by Carson Wentz's right arm last week. I think that could very well happen again this week versus a Detroit Lions defense that's arguably the worst in football. It's at least in the conversation. Washington's offensive line is solid. It's about, I would say Washington has the advantage in protection versus Detroit's pass rush, although I don't think Detroit's pass rush is necessarily bad. And I thought Antonio Gibson in the run game of Washington was fairly solid as well. Solid enough to be balanced. So ultimately, this is a very close matchup. I view both teams on, the same playing field. I think that's what the spread indicates here. I'm going with Detroit, though. This is not a game that I would necessarily feel strongly about to pick or bet. The only thing that I do like in this game is the over, because I do think both offenses have advantages on the opposing defenses. I think it's going to be very difficult for the Lions to cover Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, and Jahan Dotson. And I think, the Lions will be able to negate the strength of the Washington pass rush. So I think this is going to be a high-scoring game, but I got Detroit winning at the end, powering it out and taking it on the last drive or something. This will go down to the wire for sure. Okay. The Indianapolis Colts at the Jacksonville Jags. Indianapolis is favored by 4, and the game is in Jacksonville. Indianapolis's House of Horrors has been Jacksonville. Jacksonville's been a very tough place to play for the Colts for whatever reason. Last year, playoffs on the line, and we all made fun of Wentz for his performance, and he was not good, don't get me wrong, but the entire Colts team sucked in that game. The entire Colts team absolutely blew. And in a way, for Indianapolis, this is a kind of like New England going to Miami. Like, this is just a really tough game for them for whatever reason. Could it be that they play in a dome, they play in a city in Indianapolis, which isn't overly warm climate, I would say. Jacksonville is a lot more difficult to go to and deal with the Florida humidity and heat. That could definitely be part of it. I've got Jacksonville in this game. I think, Indianapolis was thoroughly, unimpressively impressive. They tied the Houston Texans 20-20 in that game, but they did have the most yards gained of any team in the NFL with over 500. I do think Jacksonville's defense is better than Houston's. I think Trayvon Walker is a real baller. I think Josh Allen is a real player. I think that the linebackers are good in Jacksonville. I think they've got speed, and they've got enough size to do a fair enough job versus Jonathan Taylor. I don't think they're going to have a ton of success defending Jonathan Taylor, but I think they'll do an okay job, let's say. But I do think they can affect Matt Ryan with some pressure in this game, especially off the edges, where I do feel the Colts are a little bit weaker protecting their quarterback. I was not impressed by Matt Ryan last week. I just don't think he makes a ton of throws at this point in his career down the field. I think that for him, he's going to have to be a guy that spreads it out and kind of goes, dinks and dunks his way down the field, which I think's fine, but it allows mistakes. Michael Pittman was very good in the first game. I think he should have another good game here. Looks like Alec Pierce got hurt at the last week's game. Paris Campbell could have a bigger role in this one potentially. I think the Jags defense, I'm still relatively high on them despite not a great performance versus Washington on the road. This time it's at home where Jacksonville's defense was a lot better last year. So I think the Colts move the ball. I think they have success on offense, no doubt. I think they score into the 20s. But I look at Jacksonville offensively, and I think Lawrence looked good last week in terms of his ability to move around, avoid a pass rush, make plays on the move, extend plays. I thought Christian Kirk looked really good. I thought Zay Jones looked good. I think Doug Peterson called a solid game. I thought ETN and James Robinson both were electric in the game in moments. So I think Jacksonville, it's sort of a matchup thing. It's sort of a, just a house of horrors thing. But I like Jacksonville to at least keep this one close, if not win the game. So I'm going to take Jacksonville +4, and I will take them to win the game. Although I'm not confident that they'll win the game. I think it will be a one-score game either way, and that's why I'm going to take the points here. So give me Jacksonville. Next, we've got the Atlanta Falcons at the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams, a lot of questions to be answered this week. They are favored by 10.5 points. Okay? Atlanta is underdogs. Big underdogs once again of 10.5 points. Now, Atlanta is on the road. They were at home last week in week 1. Atlanta played an admirable game against the Saints, and they really should have won the game against the Saints. 100%. They were up 26-10 with 11 minutes left in the game. And they absolutely positively choked. Marcus Mariota looked good. I thought he threw the ball well. I thought he threw it with power and touch and accuracy. I thought Arthur Smith did a phenomenal job of negating the Saints' pass rush, of allowing Marcus Mariota to get outside the pocket, to move the pocket. I thought that Cordell Patterson was arguably one of the best running backs in week 1. Besides Saquon and DeAndre Swift, I don't think anybody was necessarily better than Cordell Patterson as both a runner and a receiver in that game. I would like to see more Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts was very much not involved. The question is, will he be more involved? They got to scheme him more touches, get him the football more, whether that's in the backfield, out wide, in the slot, on the line of scrimmage. They got to figure out a way to get him the football. Drake London looked the part of a very high first-round pick. He looks to be a stud for the Falcons' future. So I like Atlanta's offense a lot more than other people do. And the biggest, most underrated storyline was how effective they were protecting Marcus Mariota. That may change on the road a little bit, but I think that Atlanta's offensive line and the way that they scheme their protections with Marcus Mariota, a guy that can move, is is something that could keep Aaron Donald from wrecking this game. And I think if you can keep Aaron Donald from wrecking this game, you can basically keep the pass rush of the Rams at bay, because the Rams pass rush, I just don't think is very good outside of Aaron Donald. I do think the Rams linebackers are slow. I do think the Rams safeties are average at best. I do think that as long as it's not Jalen Ramsey who's covering Kyle Pitts should have some success in this game. But, Jalen Ramsey very well may draw that assignment, in which case would allow Drake London to probably have a pretty successful day. I think that the Falcons can be feisty on offense and continue to move the ball in this game. On the flip side, Stafford's a huge question mark with his arm. Cooper Kupp's obviously amazing, but everybody else was pretty bad. Henderson was solid, I guess, but Cam Akers was non-existent. The offensive line couldn't protect versus Buffalo. Allen Robinson looked washed. They don't really have a number 3 receiver at this point. Tyler Higbee looked slow and unathletic, coming off an injury. Atlanta has 2 good corners, AJ Terrell, Casey Hayward. I'd expect at least one of those guys at all times to be on Cooper Kupp. If not, Dean Pease might double Cooper Kupp every play. He's not a stupid coordinator whatsoever. The question to me is, can Atlanta get enough of a pass rush in this game to be competitive? Because I think that's what this game comes down to in terms of the spread. I'm picking the Rams to win the game, but I don't feel confident about them covering a 10.5 point spread, with how they looked last week. I'm taking Atlanta plus double digits. Atlanta is not as bad as people think based on their first week performance. And I think they're coached very well. And I think that comes in handy when you're an underdog of this type of spread, because when you're coached very well, you can hang in the game. I don't think Atlanta's going to upset the Rams. I don't. But I do think they're going to hang in the game. And I do think that if they can get a little bit of a pass rush, it's going to be closer than people think. And that's really the X factor of this game, is Atlanta's ability to get to the quarterback. So I've got the Rams winning. I'll give you my score when I put out that short, but I've got the Rams winning, the Falcons covering. I just think 10.5 is too many points after what I saw in week 1 from the LA Rams. Next, the Seattle Seahawks at the San Francisco 49ers. This spread's been all over the place. I actually bet this game, if you guys want to sneak peek, I bet this game at plus 10 for Seattle. And it's now down to, the sportsbook that I bet it on is down to 8.5. So this game's been everywhere. It's been 8.5, it's been 9, it's been 9.5, it's been 10. It's bet back down to 8.5. So yeah. Obviously, people don't expect the Seahawks to win this game based on the spread. I don't expect them to win either. The 49ers very well should bounce back in this game. But I'm not confident that they're going to cover the spread with this quarterback. I was not impressed with Trey Lance in that game. I understand it was a monsoon. I understand all that. But hey, if you're asking me who's the better quarterback in this game, my question would 100% be Geno Smith. Geno Smith is the better quarterback in this game. So that being said, I think that, yes, Seattle's offensive line is not very good. But DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Noah Fant, Kenneth Walker's going to be in the lineup, Rashad Penny. There's still some playmakers here for Seattle to be able to make some big plays on San Francisco's defense. I do think they're going to struggle protecting, though. I do think the Niners are going to have their way pressuring Geno Smith. But Geno is savvy enough to move around and make some throws. On the flip side, the Niners offense should have success making some big throws down the field. I think Trey Lance is going to be inconsistent accuracy-wise, but I do think when the big plays come, they're going to come because the secondary is very dicey. The pass rush for the Seahawks isn't exactly phenomenal. But where I do think the Niners will struggle more than they usually do is through a traditional rushing attack. Seattle's run defense is not that bad. And I do think that when it just comes to Jeff Wilson or the running, the running game of the Niners, it's diverse. It's difficult to figure out, with Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and all the reverses and stuff. But without George Kittle blocking out there, I think Seattle can do a decent enough job defending the run, which puts more pressure on Trey Lance to consistently make throws. I think Trey Lance will make some big plays. I expect Brandon Ayuk to have a big game, but I think the Niners are too talented in terms of their defensive line and in terms of Kyle Shanahan's play calling prowess. I think Deebo Samuel on a fast track this time plays better. It's going to be in better conditions. So Trey Lance's ability to grip the football and control the football won't be so much of an issue as it was in the monsoon rainstorm. So I think the Niners are just a much better team, so they win the game. But I am very concerned about the quarterback play, and I want to see Trey Lance play better. I've got the Niners winning, but I do not have them covering because I don't think that they've got a quarterback that makes me confident in them covering this game. The next game is the Houston Texans at the Denver Broncos. The Broncos are favored by 10. This is another spread that seems to be too high. I mean, what is with all these spreads that are like 10 plus points, in games where they're playing teams that rather played competitively, played well, won, tied. The Denver Broncos lost to the Seattle Seahawks. I understand it was in Seattle. They lost to the Seattle Seahawks. They probably should have won by 14, but they lost the game ultimately. 10 points is a lot of points in the NFL. It's a lot of points in the NFL. I mean, the Houston Texans offensively are not that bad. Damian Pierce and Rex Burkhead at running back. The offensive line is not half bad. Davis Mills is not as bad as people think. Brandon Cooks seems to get open versus every team. OJ Howard had 2 tutties. Shout out to him. I don't think the Texans offense is as bad as people think. Now, what's the X factor to me is the humidity, and not necessarily the humidity, but the what is the word? I can't remember. But the altitude of Denver, mile high, early in the year. So Denver's used to it. Typically early in the year, you're not as conditioned, and early in the year, it might be difficult for Houston to play in the fourth quarter in comparison to Denver because they're used to that altitude. That's an X factor. Denver's X factor is also their ability to score in the red zone. Can they do it? Because I think they're going to have to do it. I think the Texans play a defense where they're very bend but don't break. I think the Texans are very underrated from a pass rush standpoint. I think they're very athletic and fast up front. I do think you can run the ball on them. I think Javonte Williams should have a big game, and that should wear down the Texans and ultimately get the Broncos this victory. But I think Stingley looked good. I think the Texans have a underrated pass rush and pass defense as a whole. I think the scheme they play, a lot of cover 2, a lot of 2 safeties, is something that typically gives Russell Wilson some problems because he's a very much a downfield passing type of quarterback. So even though it's very vanilla, it's structurally sound and allows the Texans to play a fast game on defense. I've got Denver to win, but I don't have them covering. I just don't know if I can trust them yet. Could I see them covering, winning 31-17? Sure. But I think ultimately I'm going to lean towards the Texans. I don't think the Texans have earned the right to be underdogs of this level of, magnitude. I don't think they're that bad. So I'm going to take Denver to win, but the Texans to cover. Too many points for a team that's proven nothing to me. 10 points indicates a blowout. Yes, absolutely. All right, next game, we've got the Las Vegas Raiders hosting the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray versus Derek Carr. I bet this one early in the week. Patrons got it hopefully at 3.5 or 4. I bet this one real early, and it just juiced up to 5.5 very early in the week. And I was pumped to get it at 3.5. That was more like, that wasn't necessarily, that was just a feel. That was a feel thing of watching the Raiders and watching the Cardinals. And I was just like, that doesn't seem right. I'm pouncing on that. So I've got the game at 3.5. So you guys know who I'm picking. I'm picking the Las Vegas Raiders. Absolutely 100%, no doubt. The Raiders are a tier or two above the Cardinals. I think they'll show that in this game. The Raiders lost to a very good Chargers team on the road, right? And even though the Chargers are not necessarily a great home field, but the Raiders offense should have a ton of success here. The Cardinals defense is really bad. Like, if not the worst, one of the worst in the league. They don't have a consistent 4-man pass rush, which makes them blitz. When you blitz the Raiders, it has been said that Derek Carr can struggle against pressure, but when you've got one-on-one matchups with Darren Waller, Devontae Adams, and Hunter Renfrow, you're bound to give up some big plays. I think Josh McDaniels can scheme some things up and make you pay that way. I do think the Raiders are going to get back to running the ball in this game and run it more and run it effectively versus a bad Cardinals run defense. I just have no faith in the Cardinals defense. I think they absolutely positively suck. On the flip side, oh, by the way, I think that Adams will get less spammed in this game. I think Renfrow will get a little bit more work in this game. On the other side, the Raiders defense, I think, is a little bit better than people think. And the area that I like them against the Cardinals is they're very athletic on the edges. I think Crosby and Jones, they're going to be able to get after Kyler, make his life uncomfortable. I don't think they have like one receiver. Marquise Brown's good, but he's not a guy that can just torch their matchups every play. Like, if they had D-Hop, I think this would be a lot more challenging for the Raiders defensively, but I thought the Raiders defense played well, and I think they can scheme some pressures and scheme some confusion for Kyler Murray. They're going to make sure the pocket's contained. They're not going to try to get too crazy there. Just knowing the scheme, knowing the Patriot identity, I feel like they're going to do a good job of that and not allow Kyler Murray to go road runner all over the field. And the run game of the Cardinals was really, really lousy last week, and I thought the Raiders' run defense looked good. So I could honestly see this being like a semi-blowout. Like, I think it's going to be... The Raiders' home field is also very underrated now that it's in Vegas. I think it's a very strong home field. I've got the Raiders like 34-20 or something to that degree. Like, I think they're going to win like a semi-blowout. Like, they're going to win by like 2 scores, and it's going to be fairly comfortable and fairly impressive. Next, we've got the Cincinnati Bengals at the Dallas Cowboys. No Dak Prescott. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. I was lucky as hell to get the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday night, plus 2.5. The spread has moved all the way to Cincinnati minus 7.5. That indicates who should win this game with such a big swing. The Joe Burrow Bengals will come out with revenge in their hearts, with absolute disgust in their eyes. I think Joe Burrow plays lights out. They play a good game. And the Bengals defense continues to be arguably the most underrated defense in football with what they were able to do against the Steelers with the playoff run they had last year. They continue to play good football. I mean, they're going to figure it out. They're not going to allow CeeDee Lamb to go off. They're not going to allow the Cowboys to run the ball all over them the way that they might want to try to with the backup quarterback. I was not impressed with what I saw from the backup quarterback in the limited action I saw on Sunday Night Football live in person. On the flip side, I think Joe Mixon can have some success running the ball. I think this is going to be a big Joe Mixon game. They're going to dictate pace of play. Joe Burrow will work off of that. Even without T. Higgins, I think they can find enough through the passing game. I think Jamar Chase has a huge game. There's nobody that can cover him in Dallas. But I do like Dallas's pass rush to make, life interesting in moments in this game. I don't think it's going to be an absolute blowout, but I do think that the Bengals should comfortably win. I'm going to say 30 to, like 27-13. I think the Cowboys defense will still come to play, But I just think their run defense is very, very suspect. So I'm going to go with the Bengals -7.5 and to win the game. Okay. The Bears at the Packers. Packers are favored by 10. This is the game where a team is favored by a lot of points, and I'm going to take the team to cover the points. I have faith in Aaron Rodgers in a bounce back spot at home at Lambeau Field on, under bright lights, prime time outing. The Packers should be getting back at least one of their tackles, and they're also expected to get back Allen Lazard. So those two things in combination are huge for them. I thought a big problem versus Minnesota was their inability at the tackle position to block, Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith. But Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith don't play for the Chicago Bears. I also thought Justin Fields did not play well versus the 49ers. I think the Packers defense played lousy versus the Vikings, but their pass rush is still pretty good. Rashawn Gary could have a huge game here. Kenny Clark could destroy the middle of the field for them. And I do think the Packers defense is going to play with a little bit more of a chip on their shoulder after a disgusting, underwhelming performance in week 1 versus Justin Jefferson and company. I think the Packers blow them out. I think they win comfortably. Aaron Rodgers owns the Bears, and I think that shows in this game. Christian Watson catches a long touchdown this time. He doesn't drop it. He catches it, and he goes for 6. I got the Packers winning and covering that game. All right, next up, the 2 Monday night games. We've got the Tennessee Titans and the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are the best team in the NFL. There is absolutely zero reason to pick the Tennessee Titans in this game, so I'm not going to. I'm going to pick the Buffalo Bills. The Tennessee Titans lost to one of the least talented teams in the NFL last week in the New York Giants, and that's what I do think they are, one of the least talented. Doesn't mean they're not well coached, doesn't mean they don't have good players. They're just not very good on paper. But paper doesn't always mean everything. I've got the Bills, though, and the biggest reason I feel confident about the Bills is their defense. Their defense is really strong. I love their pass rush in this matchup to be able to cause some pressure on Ryan Tannehill in a way that the Giants couldn't because they've got better edge players. I think the Bills' run defense is not, what it used to be in terms of it's not massively susceptible. And I do think Derrick Henry looks a tick slower than he used to be. I wasn't impressed with his performance in week 1. Did not think he played well. I don't think Tannehill has a ton of matchups to go to in this game. I think he will struggle to score a lot of points and move the ball consistently. So it's really about the Bills on that side of the ball. Defense. I think that is where they cover the spread. Because I don't think you can cover spreads like this if your defense does not come to play, even if you're an electric offense. So the Buffalo Bills offensively, I actually think will have some struggles. I think Tennessee's defense is pretty good. I don't think the Bills are going to be able to run the ball like the Giants did. No chance. I don't think the Titans are really going to care if the Bills try to run the ball, honestly. But where I do see the Titans having success is Jeffrey Simmons in that interior pass rush against Josh Allen in that offensive line. I do think they're going to have some success. The Bills are going to try to spread them out and throw it. I do think the Titans have a better secondary than the Rams do. So I do think Vrabel and them are going to have a decent game plan to slow down Josh Allen and company. They're going to play physical football. Josh Allen, you better slide in this game. But I think the Bills win. I think they just kind of slowly pull away, slowly win this game by enough to cover. I think they win like 30 to 17, 30 to 14, something like that. Something similar to last week. I don't think it will be a very fun game for the Titans whatsoever. And I'm going to continue to fade the Titans. Absolutely. Okay. The Minnesota Vikings at the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are at home. Therefore, they are favored by 2. I don't think anybody really has an idea of who's going to win this game. I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings. And the reason I'm taking the Minnesota Vikings, and I went back and forth all day long with this one, and I could see the Eagles winning easily because they're at home. I do worry a little bit more about, the Vikings offensive line on the road. I do worry about the, Kirk Cousins on the road, but it's not going to be cold, right? It's early in the year. I'm not too worried about Philadelphia's home field early in the year. I think if this was like a cold game, I would go towards the Eagles. But I've got to go with the Vikings. And the reason I'm going with the Vikings is Kirk Cousins and his precision accuracy. I think when the Eagles play a quarterback like Kirk Cousins, they really struggle. They played a worse version of Kirk Cousins last week, Jared Goff, who had a lot of success dinking and dunking, making the right throw, just being precise, being accurate, being consistent. But Goff missed a couple throws that Kirk Cousins won't miss. On top of that, Justin Jefferson exists, and Justin Jefferson's basically uncoverable. They're going to move him everywhere. I'd like to see him a lot in the slot in this game. He's going to work. Adam Thielen as well, and KJ Osborne. I think Dalvin Cook could have some success in this game if Philadelphia continues to play too high. I think that with Philadelphia playing, as vanilla as they do, with as much two safeties deep as they do, I think the Vikings will be able to easily get completions underneath, but then also be able to have a strong enough running game to keep the Eagles off balance. The Eagles need to be more diverse. They need to be more creative in their defense, and they just aren't. Their coverages are clear as day. When you play Madden and you can tell what a guy's in, like, if anyone plays Madden here, you can clearly tell when it's cover 3, you can clearly tell when it's cover 2, just because how the video game is made. That is basically what the Eagles are like. Like, they don't show a blitz at any point. They don't mix a bunch of guys up. They don't have different guys in different spots. It's like, no, bro, if this two safeties high, it's like two different defenses, and it's going to be easy. Cousins is too smart. He can see it before the snap. He can read it effectively, and he's going to be able to pick it apart. Just as Jared Goff did with Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then on the other side, I think the Vikings defense is not great. I do worry about the secondary. I do think A.J. Brown can make plays in this game because I do think the Eagles will be able to block Za'Darius Smith and Danielle Hunter enough. Then again, they'll make some plays, absolutely, and they're very athletic. They could be able to chase down Jalen Hurts. I do think, though, that with Eric Kendricks, Jordan Hicks, smart defense, and a defense that I think is going to force more tight window throws for Jalen Hurts, I just trust Cousins' passing ability more than Jalen Hurts. I still think, Jalen Hurts didn't do a lot of precise passing. It was a lot of run game, which they'll have success running the ball, no doubt. I think the Vikings still struggle there a little bit, but I don't know, man. I think that the Vikings are going to be smart enough to force Jalen Hurts to beat them passing the ball more so than the Lions did. I think the Lions were so susceptible in the back end that they weren't really able to. But I think with Harrison Smith back there, the general, they're very smart. They've got a lot of smart defensive players, a lot of veteran defensive players. I don't think they'll get caught off guard too much. So I got the Vikings, but it's going to be a really close game. It's going to be probably a high-scoring game. I could see it going either way. And it's going to be really exciting. I'm looking forward to watching this one. Hopefully I can go watch it with my Vikings fan friend. Should be great to see. But yeah, this is probably the game of the week, the best game other than Thursday night. And I think this is a game where I say, right now I've got the Bucs in the NFC Championship, but hey, I very well could see the Vikings or the Eagles making that NFC Championship as well. So we'll see, man. Two good teams in Philadelphia. I've got the Vikings just slightly, so obviously I'll take the 2 points. That's it, guys. Week 2 NFL picks. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to spike the like button if you haven't already. And don't forget to spike the notification bell for the latest upload and to be notified when I go live. Thank you guys so much for watching me here live. In terms of best bets, tune in tomorrow for best bets. My score predictions will also be out as well. Probably an audio format type deal, but it will be a short, so it'll be real quick, so go check that out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate all of you. Sing, Ruben, Josh, Ashton, Jennifer, who's in the chat, Vikings fan, Evan, I think I said your name already, Pokey, Bethel, Valley, Blaine, who else is in here? Neil, HK. Thank you guys all for tuning in, and thank you guys for the comments. We will see you soon. Peace.